Welcome to our explainer on the beginning of the absolutely true diary of a part-time Indian. So, have you ever felt like you were just born on the wrong planet? Well, that is exactly how our narrator, Junior, feels every single day. We're about to dive into his world, a world he's not just living in, but honestly, one he's desperately trying to survive.
So who is this kid? Let's meet him. He's Arnold Spirit Jr., a 14-year-old who goes by Junior. And the very first thing he wants you to know about him is that he was, in his own words, born broken.
And trust me, he is not exaggerating. He was born with too much fluid in his brain, which led to brain damage and seizures. And that was like a domino effect. It created a whole cascade of other issues. I mean, can you imagine having 10 extra teeth pulled in one day with only half the Novocaine you need? Or dealing with a stutter and a lisp every single time you open your mouth to speak? He really feels like he's just a walking collection of problems.
And all of this, as you can probably guess, makes him a super easy target on the Spokane Indian Reservation where he lives. His physical differences mean he gets beat up, a lot. So much, in fact, that he calls himself a card-carrying member of the Black Eye of the Month Club. So how in the world does he cope with all of this pain and feeling so isolated? Well, he draws. He draws all the time. Just look at this self-portrait here. You can already see his sharp sense of humor and his pretty unflinching self-awareness. For Junior, drawing isn't just a hobby, it is a survival tactic. It's his way of taking back some control over his own story. You see, for Junior, drawing is just more reliable than speaking. He feels like words, especially with his stutter, can be misunderstood or, even worse, just ignored. But a picture is universal. It's his own secret language, a way for him to try and build a bridge to the rest of the world and just hope that someone, anyone, will finally get it. But, Junior's physical challenges are really only half the story. The other half is defined by something just as difficult, the crushing, inescapable weight of poverty.
And he shows us what this is like with a truly heartbreaking story about his best friend in the entire world, his dog Oscar. He says Oscar was more dependable than any human he knew. But when Oscar gets terribly sick, Junior comes face to face with a problem that love alone just can't solve.
And the problem is simple, and it's devastating. His family has absolutely no money for a vet. They love the dog, of course, but love doesn't pay the vet bills. Their poverty makes the decision for them, and it's a completely impossible choice.
This right here is the brutal reality of their life. His dad has to put Oscar out of his misery with a rifle. Why? Because a bullet only costs about 2 cents. It is the only option they can afford, and it is the most painful one you can imagine.
But what's really amazing is that even in his grief, Junior doesn't blame his parents. He sees them as victims of their circumstances, as people who are just full of unfulfilled dreams. And through his cartoons, he imagines the lives they could have had if they hadn't been born poor on the reservation. And this is a huge takeaway for Junior. He totally rejects that whole idea that being poor somehow builds character. For him, there's no noble lesson here. He sees poverty for exactly what it is, a trap. It's an ugly circle that teaches you nothing except how to stay poor.
Okay, so amidst all of this hardship, Junior does have one person he can absolutely count on, his best friend, Rowdy.
Now, Junior and Rowdy could not be more different. Junior is fragile. He avoids fights at all costs. Rowdy, he's the toughest kid on the res, and he fights everybody. You see, Rowdy's dad is abusive, so he channels all of that pain into pure rage. But he and Junior are inseparable. They're the only two people who share their real, actual dreams with each other. And Junior really needs a protector. He tells this story about getting beaten up at the powwow, and not by other kids, but by 30-year-old grown men, just because they were bored. I mean, that's the kind of casual cruelty he faces when he's on his own.
But Rowdy is his fierce protector. To get revenge for Junior, Rowdy sneaks into the triplets' camp in the middle of the night. He shaves off their eyebrows, and, maybe most importantly, he cuts off their braids, which is a huge sign of disrespect in their culture. It's a violent act, for sure, but for Junior, it is the ultimate proof of Rowdy's loyalty.
The story's first huge turning point comes on what should be one of the most exciting days of a teenager's life, the very first day of high school.
And unlike most kids, Junior is genuinely excited, especially for geometry class. His teacher is this eccentric and often sleepy guy named Mr. P, who's a real character. He apparently sometimes just forgets to show up for school at all. So Mr. P starts handing out the textbooks, and Junior is just thrilled.
He opens his book all ready to learn, but what he finds written on the inside cover hits him, in his words, with the force of a nuclear bomb.
The name is Agnes Adams, and Junior recognizes it instantly.
Agnes Adams is his mother's maiden name. He is holding the exact same, worn-out, decrepit textbook that his own mother used more than 30 years ago. And in that moment, that book becomes a symbol of his future, or more accurately, his lack of one. It's a sign that nothing has changed and nothing will ever change.
And he just snaps. He is filled with this sudden rage and this profound sadness for himself, for his mom, for his entire tribe, and he just hurls the book across the room. It accidentally smashes his teacher, Mr. P, right in the nose.
So Junior gets suspended, of course, but about a week later, Mr. P shows up at his house, and he's not there to punish him. He's actually there to apologize and to deliver a message that's going to change Junior's life forever.
Mr. P confesses that when he first came to the reservation as a young teacher, he was part of a system that had this terrible motto, "Kill the Indian to save the child." He admits that he was taught to beat the culture out of his students, to make them give up their language, their songs, their very identities.
And he looks at Junior, this kid who still has a spark of fight left in him, and he tells him he cannot give up like everyone else has. To survive, to have any kind of future, he has to leave the reservation. As Mr. P puts it, you're going to find more and more hope the farther you walk away from the sad, sad, sad reservation.
And this is the choice that Junior is now facing. It's a choice between the only home he has ever known and the tiny possibility of something more. It's a question that is going to drive the entire rest of his incredible story. Where do you find hope when everyone around you has already given up?